Hi, I'm Rich Wyatt. Welcome to GunsmokeGunsTV.com. Welcome to GunsmokeGunsTV.com. Got an important thing for you guys to learn about today, huh, Brian?
Yeah, this is a big lesson.
All right, we had a guy come into the shop yesterday, and he bought this beautiful double rifle right here. Express sights, double rifle, fully engraved, very European gun. And what we want to talk to you about is buying used guns. Should you buy a used gun or shouldn't you buy a used gun? It's a great way to go buying a used gun. Exceptional value.
Absolutely.
Save a few bucks.
There's some guns you cannot buy brand new anymore.
Absolutely. You might have to buy a used gun in order to get that done. Now, what does a double rifle like this, a European designed double rifle, cost? Do you have any idea, Brian?
Well, I would say a good European double rifle is going to be up in the tens of thousands of dollars.
Okay, so a really good one starts at 10 grand and goes to the sky's the limit. I've seen them sell for over $250,000 personally, standing right there. Okay, now they've sold for more and they've sold for less. We've had some on our show that were phenomenal guns. The one where we built the Howdah.
Yep.
You know, for
I remember that.
For Marina Muck. That was a great gun. That was owned by a Sheik or a Shaw or a Shazami or somebody.
Superman.
And they had a bunch of pile of dough, you know. And so, look at this gun, guys. Take a look at it here. It looks pretty good, right? It's a pretty cool looking gun.
From far away.
Yeah. Yeah. Looks good from far, but it's far from good. Now, how would you know? If you just walked up and saw this gun, would you buy it? Would you think, oh man, I can get a double rifle? There's a couple of clues right out of the gate. From a distance, you can tell. Look at the position of this express sight. It should be up here, okay? Not right back here. That is a clue that somebody didn't know what they were doing when they built this gun. There's a couple other things. There's a little plate on here with a white line spacer. That's cheesy, okay? That tells you again, somebody didn't know what they're doing. Not that you could put a butt plate on there, but I think a nice rubber pad right there is a better way to go on a dog. Now this one's not chambered for a heavy cartridge or something like that. It's also fitted like a third grader did it. You know, like if you went to Walmart to get your gun fixed, that's what it would look like when you got it back, right? I mean, you wouldn't let that out of our shop, would you?
No, I would not.
Okay, so this gun came into the shop and it was brought downstairs. What did he ask for? I don't even know what I was.
He asked if we could make one of the barrels shoot. He was out test firing it, and he said one side does not fire. And he brought it in to see if we could make the whole gun shoot.
Okay, so he'd been shooting the gun. He told me later after I ran into the deal that he'd fired 20 rounds through it with his granddaughter. Okay? Now, when you looked at the gun, what did you tell him?
Well, first I started cataloging all the problems that I saw just without opening the gun. The first is that the rib has been repaired right here, and it looks like a piece of brass that somebody tried to hammer in place, and then they put somebody else's name on it to kind of up the fake value. If you look right here, you can see they did it with excessive heat because it's discolored. The rifle sight...
Hold on, let's get to that. When you heat this up to where the barrels discolor, are there any issues in the metallurgy here that we should be concerned about?
There's a few. One is that you weaken the metal.
Okay, now one of the problems, guys, is if you just re-blued this gun after you did that, it'd be hard to tell that happened. Okay, so you sent the gun back upstairs and told the guy it was unsafe to fire.
Don't fire it.
And the guy blew a gasket. I was sitting there, I was doing something else, And I heard the guy go, "What do you mean unsafe to fire? Come on!" He got all upset. And I said, "Hey, Daryl, let me see that thing." And I looked at it, and the guy came over to me, and I just had to start laughing. Because if you don't laugh on this, you're going to cry. This gun is so unsafe. There is no redeeming quality on this gun that makes it valuable. Now, folks, as soon as you pop this off and you look in here, you'll see, you want to punch in on that? You'll see that what you have in the middle right here
looks kind of like a high quality glue.
Well, what is that product?
That appears to be some kind of epoxy. Is that Acroglass?
That's Acroglass. That's Brownell's Acroglass, which is a phenomenal product. I've used gallons and gallons and gallons of it over the years.
But never to glue a set of barrels together.
No, it's made for wood. Yes, this is not a product designed. If they wanted it to be used for metal, it'd be black, right? It's for wood. Okay. Now, this gun, that's just one of the flaws, folks. They just keep coming. The head space, which we're not going to be able to let you won't see that on TV here, but this gap from here to here is different on both barrels. That's why one of them won't fire. The cartridge is literally too far forward, the firing pin can't reach it. Thank goodness it didn't fire, because the gap in there could have caused some serious damage. All right? You can see this lug has been resoldered back on. You can see the barrels have been soldered, glued, duct taped, I don't know what else, back together. You look at the engraving, it's not very good quality. It's not very good quality engraving at all. This originally was a shotgun. Somebody converted it into a double rifle, trying to make it expensive. Now, this poor guy, he bought it at an auction, and he thought he skinned a fat cat because it's got engraving and it's got initials on it. On the barrel, it says Ray Barone. That's the dude from Everybody Loves Raymond, okay? And maybe there's another Ray Barone out there, but if there is, and he had this gun built, he got scalped. Folks, you got to be so careful when you go out. You're at a gun show, you're at a flea market, you're at a yard sale, you're at an auction, and you're buying a gun from people that aren't going to be there the next day when you find out, like this guy did. Now, I was a little nervous. I said to him, "What did you pay for this gun?" He said he paid $725. Well, guys, if you're buying a double rifle for $725, you got a pretty good idea that there's something seriously wrong. It just doesn't happen. You just don't buy one. And he thought he skinned a fat cat. And I told him, I said, "I'd like to have this gun because I'd like to use it to show people all the features to be so careful of in the future if they're ever buying a gun." And he said, "Would you give me $725 for it?" And I said, "I will. I'll give you $725. And then I yelled over to the guys and I said, "Does anybody have change for a $10 bill?" He meant $725. There's no way. $725 for this gun? It's just really a tool to show people what not to do. You can see right here, there's a difference. They cut this piece. This is original to the shotgun, and these are new barrels added on. And they did that so the engraving would match, as opposed to just making new barrels and slapping them on this, which was originally, we believe, a 16-gauge shotgun. All right? Now, some of this stuff, some of you are going to say, "Oh, but you could use Acroglass to sleeve a barrel," or you could...
Which it looks like they did.
Which they did. These are sleeved. The chamber areas are sleeved, which is something. And I get you can do that stuff, but guys, this job is horrendous. This is an embarrassment to gunsmithing. This was not done by a gunsmith. This was done by a shoemaker or some
baker, actually.
A butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. This one, the butcher, because this is a butcher job. They took a 16-gauge shotgun that was probably okay and destroyed it. Now, here's the problem. We believe this gun's unsafe to fire. And we see unsafe to fire guns pretty regularly, don't we?
Yeah.
And we tell people they're unsafe to fire, and we give them back to them. And what do they do with those guns when we give them back to them?
They either sell them on to another sucker, or they ignore the advice and try and shoot them anyways.
Yeah. And if they ignore the advice, I got no problem with that. Because if you're an idiot, this is just like God putting a lifeguard at the gene pool, and you blow yourself up. I literally could care less. If we told you and you die from being an idiot, there's too many people around anyway. You know, this thing about saving everybody is insane. There's some people that need to go. You know, Charlie Manson. Do we need that guy around? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
You know, although he did attack Geraldo, and that by itself is impressive. All right, now, remember that?
Was that the one time he got hit in the face with a chair?
Yeah, he hit him with a chair in the jail. Told him if he ever got out, he'd kill him. Okay, so you know, maybe there is a redeeming quality. I don't know. But folks, you've got to be so cautious, because here's what also happens. And this is the one that worries me. They take the gun, just like this guy said, and said, well, I wonder if I could find a sucker to buy this. And I said, well, the last guy did.
You know, I got to chime in with something, because I have this thought. Most people, when they're buying a used car, they take it to a mechanic to check it over to see that they're not getting ripped off.
Take it to a gunsmith and get it checked out. We look at so many guns, we see stuff so fast, and even we make mistakes on that, right?
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah, and, you know, I'll look at something, then Bob will look at it, and I'll go, I don't know how I missed that. Heck, yesterday Bob missed an entire gun sitting there in the shop. Well, I was talking to this lady. I had a Winchester 94 in my lap, and she had this Civil War gun, and Bob was listening to the conversation. And he didn't notice the black powder musket on the floor, and you know, but so sometimes we miss one. You get one past the goalie, who knows? But guys, listen, I had a guy bring in a bolt-action rifle, 30-06, looked like a great gun, Winchester, said it's not ejecting, it's not extracting the cases out of the chamber. I poured a chamber cast, and there's a huge damage spot on the inside of the chamber where the brass was flowing into that, and so it wouldn't pull it out of the chamber. I showed it to him. I said, you got to rebarrel the gun. It's going to cost you X amount of dollars. He said, I don't want to spend that. I just bought it. I said, well, it's not safe to fire the way it is. He said, okay. He picked it up, took the gun. 1 week later, there was a gun show that weekend. He picked up the gun. The very next week, this guy comes walking in. He's got the gun. He shows it to me. He says, hey, this gun won't extract the shells. I don't know what's going on here. I look up the serial number. I go, you got a bad chamber. He goes, how can you tell that just by looking at it? I said, I poured a chamber cast on this gun a week ago. And the guy picked up the gun and took it to the gun show and sold it to you. So please be careful. You know, you might save $10, $15 by not buying at a gun shop. Not always, you know. But did you really save anything? Because the truth of the matter is, if we sold you this, which we would never do, if we did, it would have a tag on it that says, not safe to fire, wall hanger, right? But if we sold you this and you didn't, you know, and we hadn't told you that, we would stand behind it, because we don't want you, you know, coming back and going, hey, you know, I had this problem. Sometimes there's something we miss. Again, you know, we've sold some guns, used guns before. We sold so many used guns, but we've had them that, you know, had a broken firing pin we didn't notice or something like that. And, you know, we replace it. We repair it if we can, if it can be done. But we'll take care of you. But when a guy, you know, is selling guns out of a van at a gun show, one of the reasons he does that is because he doesn't want to be accountable for his actions. And quite frankly, to be completely forthright and honest about this, when we get crappy guns in that we don't want to sell, we sell them to a guy who sells them at the gun show, because we don't want the liability of selling that gun, and he takes it to the gun show. So be careful out there, folks. We're going to come in and, you know, if you bring a gun in and want it checked out by a gunsmith, it doesn't cost a lot of money. It's totally worth the investment, especially in something big.
I would have saved this guy a lot of money.
Yeah, well, $725 because this gun's worth nothing. This gun is almost worthless, and you know, so be careful. Be careful with used guns. You're talking about something that's real important. I just had a gun. I just had one of my 1911s that the guys were cleaning. Who noticed that? Yeah, and the slide was cracked. Now this gun's been shot a lot. It's
thousands of rounds.
Way more than thousands. Over 100,000 rounds, easy. And it's got a little crack in the slide. Now you might say, oh my gosh, the 1911 that Rich says is so great cracked. Yeah, you know why it cracked? Because we didn't replace the recoil spring soon enough. Those things are only good for about 5,000 rounds, and the gun was so weak that it just beat itself up over the last few thousand rounds, and it's just worn out. But Ronnie's going to fix it. He's going to weld it back up. It's going to be fine. And, you know, we can just put a new slide on. No big deal. To us, it's no big deal. We got our use out of that gun. This guy, he fired 20 rounds and endangered his family. So be careful when you're buying a used gun out there, folks. You know the old adage, caveat emptor, buyer beware.
Okay, let me show you some of the things that they should have looked at when they bought the gun. Look at this. This is a dead giveaway. You don't epoxy a gun together like that. They did this to hide where it splits. If you look down the rail, you can see it's warped. This isn't straight at all. At the very end of the barrel, you can see it's already cracking. It's starting to split. When they go to fire this, it's going to blow apart. One other thing, as we mentioned earlier, these have been cut and epoxied into place. You can see the separation between the different metals and the epoxy in between holding the sleeves together. Very shoddy work. Here's another dead giveaway. When you go to buy a shotgun or any kind of break open, if the main pin right here, if the pivot pin is loose or out and no longer flush, it means somebody's done something to this gun. They've taken it apart, they've knocked it out. These are supposed to fit tight and flush to the frame. Here's a real simple check. Before you even open the gun, examine the stock where it meets the receiver, and you can see it's cracked right there and right there, both in the same place. One last thing, when you buy a break open, you can look at the face of the receiver right here, the lump, and you can see the condition of this side versus the condition of this side. This is a lot of corrosion and rust and pitting. This gun has been old, worked, and abused.